Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. In the middle of May, what are we going to do? We could talk hockey playoffs. We could talk NBA playoffs, but I think we're going to talk college football. The NBA playoffs, Steph didn't play. Golden State won game one. Minnesota's at home in game two. They ought to come out all sorts of fired up, blitz Golden State, and go on to win by 24 points. And that's what happened. Nobody really could go off. Nobody got to 20 points for Golden State. They didn't have anyone really doing the heavy lifting. They couldn't score 100 points. Draymond Green's getting a technical and acting up. I've never identified with Steve Kerr more than that time he got busted on camera saying, "I am so tired of Draymond Green's bleep." And, some people thought there'd be a blow up in there, but I think Draymond's the kind of guy when he's calm is like, yeah, I bet people do get tired of me. Doesn't mean he's going to change. Draymond's going to do what Draymond does. And I don't get going through life, paying all those fines and being that agitated. What is the point of that? What is the point? I don't know. I shouldn't try to be logical about it. It's an emotional thing. So anyways, Minnesota cruises the win. They're now 1-1 in that series. And we've got Cleveland and Boston coming in this weekend. They're both down 2-0 in this series. So they've lost a pair of home games. Now, there have been 5 examples where a team has lost 2 home games and come back to win the series. It can be done. But when you think about all the series, yeah, it's unlikely. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, that's enough NBA. Let's get to college football. This has been rumored for a while. And now the Power 4 commissioners meeting this week, and they're talking about it. They're leaking it. And I think they're leaking it. Now, I don't want to say that people aren't doing good journalism in their sources, but there is a time when sources feed reporters a story for a reason. And one of those reasons is a trial balloon. We don't want to come out and say we want to do this. We're going to leak it, and then we're going to see how it goes over. And if it goes over too poorly, no, we weren't thinking that. The media, you can't trust those people that are making stuff up for clicks when they know darn well they leaked it. And they leaked it to run the trial balloon. And then if it goes over really poorly, they can just deny it. It went over poorly in some circles, but I think it went over predictably poorly. And I think there was a minimal amount of complaining today. And I think it's going to happen. I think what they floated was that they would go to a 16-team playoff. And there's some people who don't like it because even with the 12-team playoff, man, we had some blowouts, right? There's some separation 1 through 16. Just because one team's 1 and one team's 2 and one team's 3 and one team's 4 doesn't mean they're all bunched up, right? There may be 3 teams and then a big break, and number 4 maybe just can't hang. Just can't hang, right? And I think we saw that in a lot of games. And there were some competitive games, obviously that ASU-Texas game, and the thing went overtime, double OT. But there were a lot of games that got out of hand. And a lot of teams that just couldn't hang in there. And quite frankly, even in the power leagues, in Tennessee, really, Indiana, not really. You really weren't in that game with Notre Dame. It's nice, and I think you deserve the chance to play it, and I'd let them play it again, but you weren't in it, But no one knew that for sure. You were 11-1. You deserved a chance to go out there and either win or get humiliated, and it turns out you got blown out. So, but everybody made a lot of money, and now we know for sure Indiana isn't good enough. It's like the 2004 Utes, the festival team. They never got a chance. Now, if they played 12-0 Auburn, with 12-0 Auburn blown them out, I don't think so. I think the Utes could have hung with them. Maybe Utes could have won. But, games take on a life of their own. Maybe there's a couple early turnovers. Maybe Auburn does blow them out, But the Utes at least deserve the chance to find out. And maybe they would have shocked the country. Mildly surprised Utah, shocked the country by beating Auburn, right? You can say, oh, that would have never happened. Yeah, well, Boise State beat Oklahoma. I don't know what to tell you. It does happen. Cinderella does win. Back in the day when I was, what was that? I would have been in college or high school. Miami was up and coming and was not yet a power and beat Nebraska in an Orange Bowl. It was unbelievable. 31-30, stopped a 2-point conversion. Crazy. And crazy things happen. Most of the time, it's chalk. Most of the time, the big dog wins. But you never know, so give them a chance. So, the 16 teams, some people don't like it. I think most people will be okay with it. Now, I think the more controversial part, and the reason they flew the trial balloon, is they want to give out the automatic bids. 4 automatically to the SEC, 4 automatically to the Big Ten, 2 automatically to the Big 12, 2 automatically to the ACC, 1 to the Group of 5, and then 3 independents, or 3 at-large bids, which an independent like Notre Dame can get, and which obviously Notre Dame would have gotten last year. They would have gotten one of the three. Alabama probably would have been the fourth SEC team looking at the rankings. But while some people don't like it, predictably, why should any league be guaranteed, should the NFC North be guaranteed more places or should they earn it? Should the NFC South be guaranteed fewer places because they've been bad for a long time? This goes against our whole notion of a meritocracy and you get to earn it. Well, yeah, this is about money. And the reason they want guaranteed berths is because they basically want many playing games. I think this is going to go through. I think there was some blowback, but not enough. There's too much money at stake. And the SEC and the Big Ten are going to put, instead of having a game on championship weekend with the championship team and one playing two, they'll still have that. But also the third place team will play the sixth place team and the fourth place team will play the fifth place team. And the winners will get automatic berths. Now, I think the loser of the championship game, 1 versus 2, will also get an automatic berth. But the winner of 3 versus 6, the winner versus 4 versus 5 will join them in the playoff. Why? Because that means on Championship Saturday, ABC can run an SEC triple header and just run 3 games back to back to back all day long and make a ton of money. And there you go. Those games will be worth a lot of money. And the Big Ten will do the same thing. 1 versus 2, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. And the top 2 teams are in no matter what, but they're playing for the conference championship. And the next 2 games are for the other Big Ten berths. And they'll have a triple header on Fox. Now, where the Big 12 and the ACC come in, it's not so clear-cut what you do with 2 berths. Do you have a title game and put both teams in and just crown a champ? Do you have a rule where you have a title game but the 2 highest-ranked teams go? Do you wait until the end of the season and when you have a 4-way tie like they did last year, say, okay, you two play, and the winners of those games get the automatic berth? How might the Big 12 and the ACC handle it? It's not clear because they didn't design this. The Big 10 and the SEC did because they did want guaranteed berths, and more importantly, they wanted a chance to play 2 more high-value games and get paid for it by TV networks and have a triple header. Now, there'll still be a place for the Big 12 and ACC because if you think about it, if ABC is showing a triple header and if Fox is showing a triple header, what is ESPN doing? What is FS1 doing? Does Fox want to sell games to NBC or CBS? They're doing that during the regular season. Do they want to do it in the postseason? So there are places to play a couple of ACC games and places to play a couple of Big 12 games. So those leagues can make more money. It will help them pull away more from the G5. It will help them close the gap a little bit but obviously the Big 10 and the SEC are going to pull away doing this. And whatever the ACC and the Big 12 get, the other 2 leagues are going to get more because you're going to have 2 games and they're going to have 3 games. And, whoever's on ESPN isn't going to have as many viewers because ABC's over the air and more people have access to that. And, the deck is stacked against you if you're in the Big 12 or the ACC. But I don't think they have the muscles to flex this. I don't think there was a pushback watching them float this trial balloon. Not enough. I think this is going to happen. This coming season, the 25 season, well, the playoff we had last year with 12 teams. But the season after that, 26, I think it's 16 teams, and you're going to hear it referred to as the 4-4-2-2-1-3. 4 bids for the Big 10, 4 for the SEC, 2 for the Big 12, and 2 for the AC, 1 for the group of 5, and then the 3 at-large berths, with Notre Dame having a chance to claim one of those 3. And Notre Dame's going to love this, and it's just one more thing where Notre Dame's not going to want to go to a conference because Notre Dame's going to think, wow, we have to beat out the 5th-place team from the Big 10, the 5th-place team from the SEC, the 3rd-place team from the Big 12, the 3rd-place team from the ACC, and the 2nd-best team from the group of 5. And we can hit 2 of those 3 can beat us out. We just need to be one of the top 3 in a mix with that. Notre Dame's going to think that they're going to be in the playoff 7 or 8 years out of 10. They have a quarterback injury. They have their 7-5, 8-4 seasons, and they won't get in. But Notre Dame gets to 10-2, bang, they're in. They are in. So, and I do think there's some more headaches with this. College football will still say weird, right? Because if you look at the SEC standings, okay, they had 1 team finish alone in 1st place. They had 2 teams tie for 2nd. Which team's in the championship game and is guaranteed a berth? And they already had to split that tie this year. But then they had like 5 teams with 5-3 records in conference. No, actually, I think they had 6 teams. So 3 of those teams would get in this and 3 wouldn't. Oh, It's just going to lead. It's going to more chaos in college football. They're just moving the bag back at first base because they get a lot of money to move the bag back at first base. All right, we'll have more on this later in the show. DJ and PK, it's 97.5. We got to take a break. Coming up later this hour, Jimmer Fredette. Yes, the Jimmer. He is on his way. We will get to that coming up. And also, talking hockey. Yes, the radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club, now the Utah Mammoth, Mike Folta from the golf course. Next, stay with us. Good morning. DJ and PK is proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. And speaking of golf, yesterday we talked to Mike Folta about the nickname, about moving up from 14 to 4 in the draft, and should they move that pick for a veteran or should they draft somebody, even though they have to wait 2 or 3 years, and then have somebody who can carry, be on one of the top 2 lines for 8, 10, 12 years. Here's Mike from the golf course with PK and I on the zone. We are joined now by Mike Folta, Utah Hockey Club radio voice for SEG Media and Wheel of Fortune addict.
What's going on, guys? The wheel doesn't start till later today. Right now, I'm trying to see if there's any right to left on this putt here at Mountain Bell 5, but I think it looks pretty straight. I'm just going to go right at it.
So you're in town?
Oh, I'm in town. I've been around town, and we were all at Delta Center the other day having a great time with the new name launch of the Utah Mammoth. How cool was that? Tusks up, by the way. Yeah. That was fantastic. Got the new colors, got the new logo, got all of it. Had the commissioner in town, had all the how-to-dos, and it was a really special day for the organization.
Yeah, I love the way they blitzed the community with billboards, and we talked about overpasses on freeways and everything. It's like they made it a big deal. So even if you didn't, you had to feel it was a big deal because it was all around us.
Yeah, it's going to be in your face, and it's something for the community. That's what Ryan and Ashley Smith have been saying since day one. It's this team, and that's why they had the name vote, right? They had over, I think, 850,000 votes or something like that across the state and across the fan base to name the team. And they want this team to belong to all of Utah. And as Ashley Smith was saying yesterday at the podium, it's a team and a brand identity to unite the state and unite the sports community here in Utah. And boy, it felt like we did that yesterday.
The whole broadcast team was there, radio and TV. You guys were up on the stage taking photos. There were a lot of photos afterwards. And I'm curious, when you were standing there talking, I'm sure you must have talked to some of the folks on the broadcast team, radio, TV, whatever it is, about moving up from 14 to 4 and what the club might do with that. What are the odds that it's used in a trade to get something that helps right now? Is there a great player there that they could get who could power the team 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it might be? What was the talk when you were all standing around?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement about that, that's for sure. And Ryan Smith kind of gave a wink and a smile to Gary Bettman saying, hey, thanks for number 4. And obviously there's nothing nefarious at play, but Bettman, the commissioner, was saying, yeah, good things happen to good people, laughing back at Ryan Smith. And I mean, to move up that much is a huge deal in the NHL draft. If you compare it to like the NFL draft, there's just a steeper drop off of talent near the top in the NHL draft, whereas the NFL draft is a bit of a flatter curve. So if you draft somebody, the Ravens have done it for years, like they get Kyle Hamilton at 30 or 29th overall, and that guy's going to be an impact player for years to come. But it's not that much. It's not that way really with the NHL, where the guys drafted in the back of the first round or the middle of the first round, there's still a very good chance that you might not even see them regularly in the NHL. But guys up near that, top 10, top 6 or 8, those guys are typically have standout skill, and that's the position Utah's in. And yeah, they could shop the pick and try and bring in assets, or they could try and bring in a difference maker. Who's a guy we talk about all the time? Logan Cooley. He was drafted 3rd overall. Well, now Utah has I just had to wait for Brian Schnee to to shank a tee shot here. Now Utah has the 4th overall. That's long. But Utah with the 4th pick has an opportunity to bring in somebody who can be a pillar of this franchise for the next several years.
Starting when, though?
Typically, even with the 4th overall, you're still looking at a 2 to 3 year runway for those guys. So if you start doing the math and trying to figure out this team's championship window, the 4th overall pick this year maybe would be contributing by the time that Utah is competing for a Stanley Cup. But you could also, like I said, you could also try and flip them or trade back for assets and things like that. I feel like I know where you stand, PK, on whether to trade the guy or trade the pick or to draft the guy.
Yeah, I talked to several players when they had their media thing, and we did the show from the arena, and some of the players came upstairs and joined us on the morning show, and they want to win now. They want to run through a wall to win now, and you could just see it. They said, all right, this process is over. Next year it is playoffs or bust, basically, is where they're at. And so I'm thinking if they have that opportunity, you got to look long and hard because they do have so many young guys and they already have some prospects. I mean, obviously I have no knowledge that even comes close to what Armstrong has, so I'm not telling him what to do. I'm just proposing a possible scenario to where you get into February. It's not a question of you're going to get the wild card. It's a question of what seed you're going to get in the postseason.
Right. And you made a great point about the guys who, after this season and the media availability with guys after the year, like they're all clued in. Like playoffs are the expectation for this next year. It's not just the goal, not just the hope. It's the expectation, I would say, that this team is playing postseason hockey. So number 4th overall, the only thing is, PK, like, again, at that point, you're probably not going to get a chance to draft a guy in that range for several more years if you're competing.
Sure.
So there's that side of it too.
Yep.
And you also have to measure, you have to trust your amateur scouts, and you have to assess, okay, the guys at the top of this draft that we can get, do we think that they are worth drafting in this 4th spot? Do we like them that much, or do we find more organizational value to trade back or to pick up the phone on one of these trade calls and potentially bring in a guy who can impact your team right now?
If you think Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller are the core of your team, Keller turns 27 this summer. Schmaltz will turn 30 in the middle of next season. And Sergachev will turn 27 this summer. So if that's the core of your team, go for it. But if you think it's Cooling and Gunther and maybe some of these other young prospects they have, then keep the pick. And is that really your championship core? Don't they have to ask themselves that question? Because that seems like 2 distinct age groups.
Sure. But I think, like, you're looking at Clayton Keller. The guy's only, 26?
He's 26 now. He turns 27 this summer. Right.
Right. So, I mean, like, yes, they're different age groups, but I think a core for a hockey team is more than 2 guys. So,
that's why I picked the 5 guys who had 50 points or more. I mean, it's an arbitrary line. I could extend it out, and Barrett Hayton kind of splits the group because I think he's 24, and he'd be next up. And Vejmelka's 28. You got to have the hot goaltender, as PK pointed out earlier this morning.
Well, and that's the other thing is, does this team need another goaltender? Because Connor Ingram right now, we're hoping him the best, certainly. That's first and foremost, but he's in the player assistance program, and there's not a lot of information that comes out of there in those types of situations. So that's a little uncertain right now. But I see your point, looking at like kind of the 2 different age groups as different cores. But to me, just based on the makeup of this group from what we saw this past year, I feel like – sorry, I'm lining up a putt here. I'm like 26 feet out here on 6. There's a little bit of right to left with a double break.
Mountain or lake?
This is Canyon at Mountain Dell.
Canyon, my bad.
And my playing partner, Sean, just absolutely stuck one about 6 feet from the flag here, so the pressure's on me.
Well, put the phone down and do the putt and come back. I mean, we can talk.
No, we'll talk. We'll talk through this. But I think they're all part of the core. Like as of now, those guys are all part of that core group, and I think that's who this team wants to build around moving forward. I mean, you don't name a guy captain, and he's not part of your core, right?
Right. You look at the NHL draft, and I compare it to like baseball draft, right? You're going to go in the minors. You know, the fourth pick in the NFL draft, everybody knows who he is. Fourth pick in the NBA draft, everybody knows who he is if you're an NFL or an NBA fan, right? But it's not that way in baseball and in hockey because they're younger. They're going to go through some seasoning in the minor league, whatever it might be. My thought for you with that in mind, it seems like there's so few guys, particularly in basketball, who are difference makers, even if they're taken with the fourth pick. The Jazz have had some high picks, and they had Enes Kanter at 3, and he turned out to be a big old bust. How many guys typically, on average, can be significant, not necessarily franchise changers because that's a high bar, but just be a significant part of a great team coming out of each draft?
Just each draft in general, or
yes, in general,
the fourth spot?
Just in general, yes. And obviously, you would think the higher the pick, the more likely.
Right, but again, I do think there's that drop off after the first 5, 6, 8 picks, where really after that, once you get into the middle of the first, it's a lot more of a toss up. That's why getting fourth overall is such a big deal. I think if you're getting multiple guys out of each draft that are impacting your NHL team, that's successful right there. You'd like to get 3 or 4, but in all realism, that just doesn't happen that much. You look at the Chicago Blackhawks when they had their dynasty, they were hitting on picks in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. But those guys weren't all necessarily coming up right away, right? Like they had to marinate in the minor leagues for a little bit and play in the AHL. And so that's the key, I think, is you have to draft guys at the top that are going to impact your club, within 4 or 5 years. But you also have to have these guys throughout the organization. You have to draft guys in Tucson or for Tucson that can develop there that are longer term, because all these guys have different success horizons. And I think Utah, or the team that was formerly in Arizona, I think they've done a pretty good job of that because the cupboard is pretty stock full right now of the high end guys. But you also have to get those 5th and 6th round guys that are going to help the AHL team and be able to come up when necessary. Like we saw Kyler Yamamoto do this last year. He came up and was an impact player for Utah when they needed to call somebody up. So drafting like in the deeper rounds for those longer term projects is really important for the sustained success. And that's kind of what we've seen from teams that go on to win multiple cups like the Blackhawks or even the LA Kings who won it in 12 and 14.
8 teams left in the playoffs. You want to handicap this for us, or is it a toss-up and there's no reason to climb out on that limb, just have it sawed off behind you?
Hold on. 4!
You made that up.
That way it was a little left. It was more than a little left. I love Dallas. I love Florida. I know Florida's down 2-0 to Toronto right now, but, boy, Bobrovsky can get hot. We've seen it before. I just don't think them being down 2-0 is going to phase them. And they've got that playoff nastiness that so many teams are trying to find. And then Dallas, Mikko Rantanen, what a story. Seriously. Did you guys see that? Hat trick last night?
Another one.
They showed a graphic where he had, at one point he had hat tricks in 2 of his last 3 periods. He had a hat trick in the 3rd period of Game 7 against Colorado. He had a hat trick in, the 2nd period last night against Winnipeg. Dallas looks unbelievable, and I think people are forgetting how good of a goaltender Jake Ottinger is. Like, the story around Dallas is Mikko Rantanen, Jason Robertson coming back, Miro Heiskanen coming back. But Jake Ottinger might be the best American or might be the Team USA goalie moving ahead. I know that's heresy to say with Connor Hellebuck, but Hellebuck hasn't performed at a high level in those international tournaments, or at a super high level, I would say. But Ottinger has been fantastic in net, and that team just doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. I think Pete DeBoer is a great coach. I like Winnipeg a lot, and they're getting healthier, but I think Dallas is the team to beat in the West, and Florida's the team to beat in the East.
So what's the deal with Wheel of Fortune?
Well, I've got 6 seasons loaded up right now. That's kind of what I'm doing here in the summer, PK. Like, I golf, I go back, I take a little nap, and then I watch Wheel of Fortune in the afternoon. So that's kind of my schedule. I got a lot going on today. Did you
hear of the greatest wrongly solved puzzle?
Gaff.
Yeah. Treat yourself a round of sausage.
I haven't heard that one. Maybe I haven't caught up yet.
Yeah, it's treat yourself to a round of applause was the answer, and the guy said when he tried to solve it, treat or have yourself another round or a round of applause, and he goes, treat yourself a round of sausage. That's what he answered. It's the dumbest response ever. Just type in Google search, treat yourself a round of sausage, and you'll hear the audio that'll come up. It is the dumbest response ever.
Well, okay, a dumb response for dumb people like me. It's perfect.
Yeah, who's going to treat themselves to a round of sausage?
I mean, that sounds delightful. Probably people in maybe Milwaukee or somewhere in Wisconsin, I'd say.
Okay, but treat has too many letters
for half
than the first word, so that doesn't even work.
Like I said, it also fits in with people from Wisconsin.
And it also, if you go look at and that's a nice shot towards the people of Wisconsin, that the E in the have is already been, Vanna had already turned it over, and treat does not end in an E. I would think
I'm lost. I'm looking at a 120-yard shot through trees, and I got PK doing a spelling bee for me here for Wheel of Fortune. I got enough on my hands here.
Well, you have to go over the trees?
There's a fence in the way. It's not even my ball. I'm just kind of stealing this Callaway too. My drive is gone.
Oh.
But I think I got to hit a 7-iron over this fence, but below the branches, and just try and roll it up on the green.
Okay, because if you want to get high off the ball, make sure the grip is very loose.
Okay, I'm going to try that out here.
Don't grip too hard, because that will restrict the flight of the ball being able to carry what you need to carry.
PK, You are a genius. Live on the radio. What a shot. All right, I'm a little off, but loose grip, loose hips. Boom. That's an up and down right there.
Okay. Now, what do you got left? I'll walk you through it.
Well, I can't even get the cart started here. Yeah, pardon the buzzer.
Be careful on the reverse.
I've got about a 30-yard chip here, maybe.
Okay. Take out your 52.
30-yard chip.
Do you want to go low or do you want to go high? Because if you want to go high, move the ball in the front of your stance. If you want to go low, move it back.
Yeah, I watched a Phil Mickelson
a chipping video.
Instagram video. Yeah. And he was saying, put the ball in the back of your stance.
If you want to go low.
To keep it. Yeah, exactly. But the pin, it's a red flag. Pin's in the back. Or no, pin's in the middle. Yeah, I don't want to give this too much run. I want to drop it right in the bucket, PK.
Okay, then move the ball up higher in the stance.
Okay, all right, hold on.
Or forward. That's what you do, man. Yeah. Wait a little bit towards the front. And do not decelerate. Never decelerate. If you don't want to hit it as far, don't take it back as far. But don't decelerate.
Well, I got to follow through, too,
Yeah, of
right?
course, yes. You must always don't decelerate and always follow through, no matter the distance.
All right, quiet, please. All right. Oh, we're dancing.
Yeah.
Great shot, PK. Hey, thanks for the help.
By the way, after this interview, at first I thought he was kidding. Then later I realized, no, he's really at the golf course and he's playing golf. And later on he sent me a picture. And he was. He was at the golf. He was at Mountaindale playing golf. All right, there's Mike Folta. Hey, a reminder, don't miss your chance to win big every week on The Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win tickets to Ice Cube and the 4 Decades of Attitude North American Tour coming September 17th at the Maverick Center. Tickets are on sale now at livenation.com. Listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. We're going to take a break. Jimmer Fredette next. DJ, PK, and we're joined now by Jimmer Fredette, former BYU star, managing director of USA Basketball 3-on-3, the men's national team. Jimmer, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
We are doing well. Was it hard to retire? Awesome. We've seen so many athletes retire. Hall of Famers just breaking down in tears. It's the childhood dream, and it's all over. Was it easy? Was it hard?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, because it's something I put so much time and effort into. Obviously, it's something that I loved. I loved the grind of playing basketball and working out and getting better each and every day. But then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I just mentally and physically just wasn't there anymore. And for me, that's when I knew it was time for me to kind of hang it up. So I came to peace with it, and was excited about the new opportunities that I had ahead, even before this role came apart, just to be a dad and be home with the family more and kind of be doing some different things. I was excited to see what that looked like. But it was definitely a really interesting feeling when I actually announced it officially. That was when it, started to hit like, oh, this is not happening anymore, right? Like I'm not going to be out there playing anymore. And but it was amazing to see the support that I was able to get throughout the retirement, the post, and all the people that showed their support. It was really cool to kind of experience that.
And you talk about being at peace with it, and we can see why you would be for sure. I'm wondering at peace with the actual career. The way I look at it, you're an undersized white kid from nowhere upstate, and you made the NBA. You fulfilled a lifelong dream, a goal. So I don't care if you scored 1 point or 20,000 points. You reached your goal. So for me, I would think that, yeah, it turned out the way it turned out, and you probably would take it going into it. Knowing that, what do you think?
It was an amazing experience, amazing career. I mean, yeah, like you said, small kid from upstate New York. I was a little pudgy when he started out, and all of a sudden, turned into National Player of the Year, lottery pick, play against the best players in the world, go over to China and make a really big impact and win MVPs and scoring titles and all of these things, and then be able to play in the Olympics and be an Olympian. And, do all these things. You look back on it, it was just such an amazing ride. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't difficult times, because there were. But that's part of the journey, and it's part of being relatable. That's everyone has difficult times in their life, whether it's basketball or not. So to be able to have that experience and be able to have the career that I have, I feel so fortunate. And, it wouldn't change anything for it. It made me into the person I am. And I felt like I really made an impact on basketball, and that's something that not a lot of people can say. So to be able to have that and hear that throughout my retirement was special for me, and absolutely an unbelievably successful career in my opinion.
We have had the good fortune to be around a lot of ex-athletes, and one thing they have in common is they will lament, like, man, if I'd come along a decade or two later, imagine the kind of money. We were joking about what would Jimmer's NIL money be coming off a junior year NCAA tournament
He'd own
win.
the Jazz.
Nice.
It would have been very nice. I will say that. It would have been very nice. I would have been driving a different car than I had in college, and a lot of different things. But it's one of those things. You're born and you're in the area that you were. I was definitely someone who was maybe a little early for their era. The way that I played, the way that I shot, the distance that I shot from, and now that's kind of normal, and that's what people do. So from that aspect, and then the NIL aspect, you always look back and like, man, yeah, I definitely would have done some damage. But at the same time, who knows, what would have happened. And I was, I didn't have the distractions of what the kids have now. And there's just so much out there that they can do and other things that they can put their time into besides basketball. And we were kind of just focused on the game, and that was it, because that's all we could focus on. So it's a different dynamic. But, yeah, definitely I think I would have done all right in that era for sure.
Yeah, no question. I think every human being, though, when they get to be an adult, they can play the what-if game, and you can go 100 different ways that way. So what happened, and it was all turned out for the good, and you're in a good situation, and now you're managing director of USA Basketball 3-on-3. If I remember the story, how you got involved in the 3-on-3, Fran Fraschilla, a guy we know very well, and he moved to Colorado Springs and got involved in that, and he knew you were up the road there in your wife's homeland in the Denver area, and I believe he called you down and you had lunch and all that stuff, and so that's how you got involved. How about now in the manner that you got involved to be the managing director?
Yeah, for sure. Fran was a big part of getting me to come play, and Jay Demings and Jim Tooley, those guys all, gave me the pitch and, decided to play, and then the next 2 years loved it and just had an unbelievable opportunity to play. And because of that, 3x3 was near and dear to my heart, and I was able to be able to get better at it and compete and end up being the number one player in the world at a point. And, our team was the number one team in the world, and we just had kind of hit some barriers that USA basketball teams hadn't hit yet. And for us to be able to do that and kind of see the success, and for me to be able to play at the highest level of the sport in the Olympics and other places, they felt like there's not many guys out there with that 3x3 opportunity and experience to be able to put as a managing director role. But they wanted to go that way, for their programs on the 5-on-5 men's side. Obviously, Grant Hill's been doing that for a while. They like that structure, and they now wanted to transition that to the 3x3 side, and then also the women's 5-on-5 side, who's Sue Bird. So it's pretty amazing to be in the same sentence as Sue Bird and Grant Hill and USA Basketball. So it's a complete honor. But I'm excited about the role and what it entails, and hopefully have some experience to be able to try to get players to play and share my experience as they go out there.
I know nothing about this world. I just watch basketball on TV and talk about it on the radio. But I would assume you look at the top 50 players in the world, and 12 of them are going to be playing in the Olympics, in the 5-on-5 game, right? And you got a lot of top foreign players also. But that would, even with the guys who are injured and having surgery and can't play in the summer, I would think there'd still be some top 50 NBA players ready for that 3-on-3 Olympic experience. Is that the way it's going to go, or it's a different skill set and there are people who are going to be invested in that game year round? You're going to stick with them? What are those teams going to look like going forward?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think ideally if the committees, as they move forward with 3x3, would have wanted to put NBA guys on the team if they could, but right now that's actually not a possibility, even if we wanted to. And the reason being is because, the NBA doesn't allow for their players to play in competing leagues, and they consider FIBA a competing league. So they can't get eligible to actually play because FIBA has said that they have to play 2 FIBA World Tour tournaments in order to be eligible to play for international events, which are World Cups and Champions Cups and then Olympics. So even if they wanted to and we wanted to pick NBA players, we couldn't. And I think that's the misnomer that people see. And they're like, well, why didn't they just put 4 NBA guys out there and play? It's not possible at this point. So therefore, we have homegrown guys that we have found that are playing professionally 3x3 that, kind of have put all that they have into the sport. They're obviously great players and they're getting better. And we're trying to grow that pool of players right now of guys that we feel like would be good fits for 3x3 that want to play, that are interested and want to put themselves out there and go to some interesting places all over the world to play in these events. And, so until something of that rule changes, and who knows if it will or if it won't, that's how we prepare and that's how we get ready for it, for the Olympics and all of our international events. We have a pool of guys that I'm continuing to grow, and that's my job, trying to find those guys and put them in the right places and put the right team together. So a lot of work to do, but it's been fun.
Those rules then that you have to adhere to as far as the no NBA, I would assume that would apply across the world because it would be unfair if other countries could have them.
Correct. Yep, that's a NBA league. So anybody that's playing in the NBA, it doesn't matter what country they're from, they won't be able to participate in 3x3 unless that rule changes. So yep, it's Jokic couldn't go play for Serbia at this point, right? That type of thing, and we can't have our players play as well. So we'll see how that goes unless that rule changes. That's the way that we roll.
So is this new job going to allow you time to attend BYU games all over the country now that the Big 12 is spread all over the country?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it comes to they came to CU last year, right, which has been my neck of the woods. I wasn't able to actually get to that game, but they're all over the place, 100%. The Big 12, all these conferences look so different than what they were when I was in school, even, however many years ago that was, which seems a long time ago now, but it's pretty crazy. But yeah, we'll try to get as many BYU games as I can. I know it's going to be a super fun season coming off a great season last year, but to be able to see the recruiting class they have coming in and Coach Young and what he's doing, I'll definitely try to attend as many games as I can.
Will you be scouting players?
I'll scout. I'm always going to be scouting now, right? Like that's part of the job. So whether it's college or, whatever it is, like I always will have like my scouting hat on just because I need to exercise that muscle in my brain of like, all right, even if I'm at like my kid's 8-year-old basketball game, it's like, all right, which kid is the best player? Why do I like that player? Those types of things. You're always kind of thinking in that context. So when you're watching college players, of course, it's like, oh man, I think this guy would be great at 3x3 or whatever it is. And sometimes those guys are super talented and they're going to be playing, professionally 5-on-5 for a lot of money. And then there's other guys that are like, oh, maybe this guy may be interested if he, isn't going to go overseas or to the NBA right away. Maybe they'd be interested in playing 3x3. So there's always some level of scouting as you go through it, and just trying to even if it's just for practice.
Are the players playing with the bigger clubs in Italy and Spain and Greece, are those players eligible for the Olympics? Do they have time, or do they have the same restrictions the NBA players have?
They're eligible. Those guys are eligible to go play. The problem with a lot of those guys is that their season's super long. So they play from August all the way until June, and then they have, kind of like July off, basically. And a lot of times the guys that are over there don't want to, go and play in a couple events and then have to go back for their seasons just because they want to take that time to rest. So technically a guy could do that if we wanted to, if we can get a guy eligible at least to play in a couple of tournaments. But at the same time, we have guys that are super high level players that are playing professionally and they play it all the time. So it's like if you only play in a couple tournaments, unless you're super, super talented, kind of hard to, jump in there and be the best in the world at it because these other teams are in other countries are taking it super seriously and they're putting out professional teams. They train year round and they have good talent that are coming in and playing. And you're seeing some guys from Europe that are playing in these divisions saying, yeah, I'm not going to play 5-on-5 anymore. I'm actually going to go play 3x3 professionally. And so it's becoming a thing. And, we just want to make sure to stay on top of it from our side.
You talk about BYU, and for decades, and clearly when you played, it was almost like having a high school team in a sense that they were the neighborhood kids. And what I mean by that from BYU's perspective is they were largely LDS. You had a bunch of local kids, and it seemed like it was a little bit different in the way the composition of the roster was comprised in a sense that's why I'm relating it to almost like a high school team. I realize it wasn't, and you literally come from the other side of the country, but there was at least some form of connection. Now it's like, oh my gosh, every transfer, if he's not considering BYU, well, he must not be any good. And if he's not a top 5 recruit, what's wrong? Why isn't he considering BYU? Just speak to how crazy it is just from your time going back many decades, literally, to how the program has just changed so dramatically in terms of the players who are going to be on the team.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's a different makeup of the team. Obviously, I think, Coach Young wants to sprinkle in the homegrown talent that he can bring in from a Utah or a kid that's, a member of the church that is at a different place in the country. I think that's something that's going to be, a priority to them to have some of those guys on the team. But then at the same time, you're sprinkling in, the AJ DeVances of the world and the Wrights of the world and all of these guys that are 5-star recruits that are coming in. And because they have access to those guys now, right? With NIL and how well BYU has positioned themselves in that game, understanding what the rules are and understanding how to position themselves with boosters and people that are a part of the collective. They did an amazing job of doing that, understanding that was coming. And then they put a coach in place that players want to play for, professional players want to play for, right? And they think that Coach Young can develop them and the staff can develop them to be at BYU and be able to then become, top picks in the NBA draft. And, that's already happening with Yegor and him coming out and probably being a, top 15 pick. And now they have AJ and it's just, it's a pipeline now. And once you get that started, you can have success on the court and, do well. Obviously, it was huge last year to make Sweet 16 with that team and moving in the right direction. You're just going to see that continuing to go that direction. So, yeah, they have anybody at their disposal now. They have kind of the pick of who they want, and that's a great spot to be in. And you're seeing like a blue blood type system coming at BYU, and it'll be interesting to see how it continues to grow.
So we're going to have more, and correct me on this, but BYU is going to have more Gmo Dashins.
Yeah, Gmo Dashin, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you'll see more of those. The problem is that they probably won't be there for more than a year, right? Like they're going to be there for a few months, and then they're off to the NBA draft, and then you just kind of reload. I mean, some of the guys will stay, but the top ones are probably out.
Well, I mean, that'll impress a lot of people, but unless they put 52 on the board in a conference tournament game with everything on the table,
I was there.
I'm not impressed.
Thomas and
the
Mac.
bar has been set.
And if I remember, no free throws?
I think there was one free throw. I think it was my last point. I think so.
That was unbelievable, Jimmer. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it 1,000 times, but to be in that arena that night, that was something.
Yep.
It was a special night for sure. Something I won't forget. That was big time.
Well, Jimmer, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, and good luck. And we will follow your fortunes going forward as you get. And I'm gonna have to learn to say 3x3. I'm used to 3-on-3.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how this goes. Thanks, Jimmer.
Thanks. We'll see you guys.
There's Jimmer Fredette. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are on the way.